The rain poured relentlessly over downtown Chicago, turning streets into streams and corners into puddles. Michael sat hunched beneath a flickering street lamp, his once pristine suit now a ragged shell of the life he'd lost. Just months ago, he was sketching skyscrapers. Now, he barely lifted his eyes. The world moved on without him, hurried footsteps, blurred umbrellas, and faces that refused to see. The cold pierced his bones, but it was the loneliness that numbed him deeper. His fingers trembled, not just from the freezing wind, but from hunger and the crushing weight of being invisible. A businessman, lost in his phone, stepped directly on Michael's outstretched hand. No glance. No apology. Just the click of expensive shoes fading into the rain. Michael winced, more from the indifference than the pain. Then, a small voice broke through. "Are you okay, mister?" He looked up. A little girl stood before him, holding a red umbrella that wobbled in the wind. Her coat was too big, sleeves dragging, her shoes soaked through. She looked out of place, like warmth had wandered into the storm. In her hand, a slightly crushed sandwich wrapped in foil. She held it out. "My mama says we give what we can," she said, eyes kind and serious. Michael took it with shaking hands, unable to speak. That moment, a stranger's child offering the only food she had, broke through his despair. For the first time in weeks, he felt seen. Not pitied. Not judged. Just human again. Later that evening, Michael found himself sitting at a long, creaky table inside a modest shelter. The girl's mother, Sarah, had gently guided him there, her hand on his back as though she'd known him all her life. She didn't ask questions about his past, didn't flinch at his appearance. She simply handed him a towel, a dry set of clothes, and a bowl of hot soup that smelled like kindness. The shelter buzzed with quiet activity. Volunteers serving meals, children giggling in the corner, the occasional cough echoing in the room. Michael sat in silence, spoon in hand, staring into the bowl as if it held a life he had forgotten. Steam rose, warming his face, and for the first time in weeks, he didn't feel like a ghost. Sarah introduced herself with a soft smile. She was a nurse, she said, who'd lost her husband 2 years ago but never her belief in people. "We all fall," she said, "but sometimes, someone's there to catch us." Michael began helping around the shelter, slowly at first, sweeping floors, fixing a broken hinge on a door, serving meals. It gave him something to do, something to be proud of. The other volunteers welcomed him like an old friend, and the children laughed at his silly impressions. In that shelter, surrounded by strangers who expected nothing, he began to feel the faint stirrings of purpose again. They had no idea he was once someone important. Yet somehow, here, he mattered anyway. Weeks passed, and Michael's hands, once stiff from cold and disuse, were now steady with work. He repaired broken shelves, repainted walls, and quietly became the go-to man for every odd job in the shelter. One afternoon, as he tacked up a loose board near the bulletin board, a bright-colored flyer caught his eye. Community Design Contest, help build a park for the homeless. He stared at it, heart pounding. It felt like the universe whispering something he hadn't heard in a long time: "You still have something to give." That night, he couldn't sleep. The shelter's hum faded into the background as his mind danced with sketches, paths lined with benches, trees offering shade, a small playground, a mural of hope. He grabbed napkins and borrowed a pen from the kitchen. Ideas spilled out like water bursting through a dam. Sarah noticed the crumpled napkins in his hands the next morning. When he showed her the designs, she didn't just nod, she beamed. "You still have the gift," she said, eyes shining. He shook his head. "I used to. But now. I don't even have a resume." She placed a gentle hand on his arm. "Michael, you gave these people warmth, safety, and dignity. That's more than most resumes can say." Encouraged, he submitted his sketches, heart pounding with equal parts hope and fear. For the first time in a long time, he dared to imagine a future shaped not by loss, but by creation. The day of the contest announcement arrived, and the community center buzzed with excitement. Michael sat at the back of the crowded hall, knees bouncing, hands clasped tightly in his lap. He hadn't told anyone he was coming, not even Sarah. Doubt crept in. What if they laugh? What if I don't even get mentioned? Then, the host stepped up to the microphone. And the winner of this year's Community Park Design Contest is Michael Reed. The room erupted in applause. Michael froze. For a moment, he wasn't sure he'd heard it right. But then, a tiny hand slipped into his, soft, warm, familiar. It was the little girl with the red umbrella, smiling up at him from the aisle. "You did it," she whispered. Tears welled in Michael's eyes as he slowly made his way to the stage. Every step felt surreal. He looked out at the crowd, strangers, volunteers, a few familiar faces from the shelter, and took a shaky breath. "I used to be someone with a title, a career, a plan," he began. "Then life took everything. I thought I had nothing left. Not even a hand to hold." He paused, looking down at the small hand still holding his. "But then someone gave me a hand, a sandwich, a second chance. And that changed everything." The room fell silent. Some wiped their eyes. Others nodded. Michael smiled through tears. For the first time in years, he wasn't lost. He was found, and he had a purpose again. Months later, the park stood where there had once been only cracked pavement and forgotten space. Lush green trees swayed in the breeze, children laughed on swings, and community members rested on benches under the soft glow of street lamps. It was a place of peace, of dignity. And at its entrance, a bronze plaque read, "Built by those who know what it means to be forgotten, and to be found." Michael stood quietly near a flower bed he had designed, watching a group of children chase each other across the lawn. The little girl with the red umbrella, her name was Lily, he had learned, was now helping plant new flowers with Sarah by her side. They waved when they saw him. He walked over, kneeling beside them. "Looks like you're better at gardening than I ever was," he joked. Lily giggled. "You're better at building stuff," she replied, brushing dirt off her hands. Sarah smiled, brushing hair from her face. "You built more than a park, Michael. You built a future, for them, and for you." Michael looked around, the laughter, the life, the sense of belonging. And felt something deep within settle. Not just pride, but peace. He turned to Sarah and whispered, "You gave me a hand when I had none. I'll never forget that." She shook her head gently. "You were always capable. You just needed someone to remind you." As the sun dipped low behind the trees, casting golden light over the park, Michael finally understood, sometimes, the smallest act of kindness is all it takes to rebuild a life.